Week 2 NFL power rankings. We're going to go team by team and adjust our week 1 power rankings. Dobbs, let's start it off right here. Baltimore Ravens, should they stay in the Super Bowl contender tier?
Yeah, I think absolutely, Hunter. When you take the Chiefs toe to toe in their home stadium and you lose by Isaiah Likely's big toe, I think we would be foolish to overreact and say that they deserve to move up or down. They're staying right where they are in Super Bowl contenders, if you're asking me.
I agree. They just got to use Derrick Henry more. Cincinnati Bengals, are they staying in the Super Bowl contender tier?
I think again, we would be a little foolish to overreact and move them down. However, I think
I'm not opposed to moving them down.
again, I think I'm going to say
this list can be fluid. Like, we can change throughout the weeks.
No, we definitely can. I think I'm going to say this. And I think hopefully you're on board with this. Let's do ourselves a favor. Let's wait until next week because next week is a litmus test. Next week we're so fortunate we get to watch them play the Chiefs. I think we are going to move them either down or keep them where they are based off what they show us next week versus the Chiefs. Could we make an agreement on that?
Okay, I'll buy that. I was ready to move them down, but I think when you put them up against an opponent like the Chiefs, if they can really come to play and step up to the level of competition, I'm willing to leave them there, give them the benefit of the doubt. Detroit Lions, I don't think it's much of a question.
Yeah, absolutely not a question. And I think if you're a Lions fan, the best news is that the Lions played nowhere near up to their best football in week 1, and they are going to keep getting better and better. Not a question to me, Hunter.
Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the Packers, but I think that, with the injury to Jordan Love, it raises some questions where it's tough, Hunter, but I think that I personally don't necessarily know if I want to move them because I don't know if I want to move a team based off an injury that they couldn't control. But let me hear your thoughts.
I think my thing is we can't look at it like of what they can't control. We gotta look at it like in terms of like what the record's gonna be when the season's over. So it's like I'm looking at like the Super Bowl contenders, like can they be a top 3 seed in the playoff? Can they be a division winner?
Yeah, no, that is very fair. And you know what? With that said, Hunter, I think we have to move them down. I think we're going to move them down into the good teams tier.
Yeah, I'll move them into the playoffs tier, the one right below. The Houston Texans, I feel like they kind of got to stay.
Yeah, no, I think no doubt. Look, the Texans, another team who's going to get better every single week. You look at week 1, you say that was nowhere near us playing at our peak, but it was still a very talented team playing good football. When you consider that, yeah, no, for me, Hunter, no reason we got to move the Texans down. I think they're staying right there in Super Bowl contender.
Chiefs, I mean, we don't even really got to discuss them.
There's no discussion needed. And there will not be, I don't think all year here, Hunter, unless something happens to Mahomes. But that's not, you know what? We're not putting anything like that in there. That's the only thing that could even make it would even make us consider something like that.
Here's an interesting one. The Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, Hunter, I don't know if we can. I think we're on the same wavelength on this one.
I think we got to move them down to playoffs, right?
Oh, we definitely got to move down to playoffs after the injuries. Yeah, not middle of the pack yet, but if what we were just talking about on the narratives video, worst case happens, it might be only a matter of time before they fell to middle pack. But, we're going to stay positive for the Rams fans. We're only going to move them down one tier for right now.
Eagles got to stay, right?
Oh, yeah. And again, I don't think much discussion is needed about the Eagles. They're staying right where they are for obvious reasons. And if you don't understand why that they're there, you just must not have been paying attention to what Howie Roseman has been doing.
49ers got to stay.
Yeah, not a question. If you have to question where the Niners are going, you haven't paid attention to what John Lynch has been doing over there either.
Buffalo Bills in the playoff tier. We're in the playoff tier now.
This is an interesting one. This honestly is an interesting one, Hunter, because it's tough, but I think that I'm still comfortable keeping them right where they were because the Cardinals, we don't know how to feel about the Cardinals yet. So it's kind of an anomaly situation, right? Were the Cardinals better than we expected, or did the Bills let the Cardinals play better than they should? I think that we still have to wait on this one a little bit.
I agree. I think they are a team to me that by the end of the year, or maybe halfway through, could be in the Super Bowl contender tier.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, no, 1,000% with that. My apologies. I'm trying to get my cat off the table here. But yes, no, 100%. They're definitely somebody who will probably be fluid at some point this year, but not yet. I think, yeah, again, we're going to be a little patient.
Chicago Bears.
I think that I'm still I'm still comfortable keeping the Bears in playoffs for now because my thing is, Hunter, I'm very confident that the Bears are going to be just fine in terms of the offense. And I think the defense is going to continue to be a very, very stout unit. Now, again, the Bears could be fluid here sometime soon if that offense does not get up to the standard that we expect. It is something that we're going to be monitoring very closely, as obviously in the Chicagoland area here. But for right now, I think, I'm fine still keeping them in the playoff contenders tier because it would be an overreaction for us to make a jump, especially with how that defense played.
I mean, I think if they would have taken the loss on Sunday, I think I would have been willing to move them down. I think because they got the win and got out of there, something that I'm going to talk about with the Jags here coming up is they found a way to win. Like they got in a bad situation and found a way to win. So I think that allows them to kind of be a playoff tier. That's not something we would have seen last year. That team wasn't doing that last year.
No, absolutely.
Cleveland Browns.
It's tough, but I think we're on the same wavelength here again, Hunter. I'm personally thinking for right now, we got to move the Browns down to middle of the pack.
I
Until
agree.
Deshaun Watson shows us that he can get back to vintage Deshaun, I have got to pull a Mark Cuban and say that I'm out for right now
Yeah,
because
I'm out.
you don't have Joe Flacco anymore, right? I mean,
You have Jameis Winston, but it's just like we know what this Browns team can be. And Deshaun Watson has consistently played like a bottom five quarterback, and there's really no escape from it outside of benching your $243 million guaranteed money quarterback. So until he can play better, the Browns are middle of the pack, unfortunately, to me, especially with the way they got routed by Dallas.
oh, 100%. We expected it to at least be a close game, to at least have that defense clamping here and now. And again, they were on the field 70% of the time, so to no fault of their own necessarily. But I think, again, we would be being a little too generous to not be able to move the Browns down after that week one performance.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's tough, Hunter. I really don't know how the Jaguars are one of the most polarizing ones because I could completely understand leaving them in playoffs and saying we might be overreacting because the Dolphins are also a competitive playoff team. But I don't know. I feel like given the way that they sold that game and the impact that a way that selling like that is going to potentially have on the locker room. I know it's only 1 week, but it's kind of been right. This is the Jaguars' identity seems to slowly becoming not living up to the potential. And you could take that however you want. They didn't live up to the potential that they should have for week one. And that to me leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I feel like after that, and again, it's fluid. I think personally, Hunter, I want to move the Jags down to middle of the pack after that week one.
I do too, and I'm glad you said that because my thing with the Jaguars is kind of opposite of the Bears. Like the Bears, they couldn't win small, right? Like they couldn't win just by a little. They were losing just by a little, but they couldn't win by just a little. This year, instead of losing by a little, they won by a little. They took that step. Jacksonville has not taken that step yet. They were in control of that game and they just let it go. They couldn't finish it. So until they prove that they can finish games, they're not a playoff team to me. Miami Dolphins. I'm gonna leave them in the playoff tier until I see more from them. They really should have they really should be a Super Bowl contender, but with the lack of success in the playoffs to me, they will perennially be kind of like a playoff team.
Yeah, you know what? Until and here, let me even give me 1 sec here. Let me just stall a little bit. Let me just pulling up the Dolphins schedule here to see when. Look, a matter of fact, you know what? We're blessed again because I almost how can I almost forget? Tomorrow, Hunter, we're gonna get to watch them versus the Bills, and I think we talk about litmus tests. I think this would be a
That'll
big
be a
litmus
good
test.
game.
If the Dolphins can go in there and punch them in the mouth, how about this? We'll make a promise to Dolphins fans right now, Hunter. If the Dolphins can go in there and punch the Bills in the mouth, I promise you that we will be moving the Dolphins up next week. Is that a fair promise
I
to the
wish we
Dolphins
could
fans?
split the logo in half because I don't want to do that. I just don't believe in them like you do. I don't
Maybe we
think.
can though. Maybe we can make an exception for the Dolphins where we're half in.
Yeah,
We're really
if I could,
we'll break the tier list rules, but I don't know. Sometimes you got to be innovators, Hunter.
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I think yeah. Okay, I think okay. I'll say this: depending on how they play versus the Bills, I
I
would be
like that.
willing to move them up. All right,
I
let's
like that.
keep them here. New York Jets.
I,
Uh,
I, I'm comfortable. I'm gonna say this. I'm comfortable still having them in playoffs, and I think that that's all I need to say after that.
I think my biggest thing is that defense did not look good,
No, definitely not. But I think
and that
that I
was their
want
strength.
But I do want to give them some leeway. And the leeway is that it is very tough to play a Kyle Shanahan offense week one without having any tape of what they're going to be doing that year. And I think that it's just the reality of the situation is, again, the Niners are pissed off. The Niners are going to be pissed off all year. The Niners are going to be a tough opponent for everybody. I feel like it's a little unfair to gauge the Jets' entire season of our expectations based off of a pissed off and vengeful Niners team. You know what I mean?
That's fine. I'm okay with that. Back to the middle of the pack, we have the Atlanta Falcons. I think they probably got to stay after what they showed.
Yeah, I think that I'm completely fine having them still in the middle of the pack. I wouldn't want to overreact and move them up or down, but the bottom or the re, I mean not the bottom line. The reality situation is if you're a Falcons fan, you are desperate to see them at least move up to the playoffs by the end of the year. Hopefully they can do that for you, but it doesn't look too promising after week one. Reality situation, right?
Moving to the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, I'm ready to move them off the playoff team after what they showed week one.
Oh, absolutely. And if we're talking about teams that look like they could very well make the jump from middle of the pack to Super Bowl contender by the end of the year, oh, shoot, by mid season, we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys with that ferocious Mike Zimmer defense. We thought Dan Quinn, was going to be irreplaceable this first year. Well, it turns out Mike Zimmer was pissed off about that Vikings firing, and he said, "I still got some fire in me. Hold on, don't count me out." With that being said, Hunter, we definitely can move the Cowboys up to the playoffs here.
I think the biggest thing that I capped on with the Cowboys is like they're essentially the same team, and they were really good in the regular season last year. So why wouldn't they be that way this year? So that was kind of my biggest cap. Indianapolis Colts. This is an interesting one. I feel like I want to move them up because of the way they played the Texans, but I don't know if A. Rich is going to be able to play like that every week.
No, and for literally, we're on the same exact wavelength. Literally the exact same reasons. I think that I am completely comfortable keeping the middle of the pack, while saying that I do think that they will be in the playoff tier by the end of the year. But for right now, I do think it would be foolish and a little bit overreactive of us to move them up or down.
I agree. Los Angeles Chargers.
I think I'm still again
Yeah,
much
it was the
honestly
Raiders.
much like the Colts. I think that they could very much find themselves potentially in that playoffs at some point if they keep this up. But there's a lot of buts in that. And again, it was against the Raiders. We can't make a move off of that. We have to stay vigilant and say, you know what? We got our eye on right. We got our eye on them down there in Los Angeles, but we're not going to make any moves yet on the Chargers. I think that we're comfortable with that.
I mean, they got the Panthers next, so they're probably going to start off 2-0. Like their schedule is not that hard. They got the Panthers, the Broncos, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Pats. So it's like I could see it. I just want to see it a little bit more into the year before. I want to see them play a little bit of a tougher opponent.
No, yeah. I mean, really, Hunter, what you basically just said to me is if you're a Chargers fan, stay tuned because it really is only a matter of time over these next few weeks at least. You might move down again, but it's maybe only a matter of time before you see yourselves in that playoff tier if you're a Chargers fan.
New Orleans Saints. I think we got to move them up.
I I'm happy. Hunter,
Derek
I'm
Carr
happy
was
to hear.
going dumbass on Sunday.
He was going.
Dumbass.
Who's going even more dumbass than Derek Carr though? My boy Clint Kubiak, and I think that's we got to tie it all back to Clint Kubiak. Clint, the NOLA savior. You love to hear it if you're a Saints fan, but I think again, like we were talking about in the Narratives video, the Saints defense can play a lot better, but they still played good. The Saints offense was a lot better than we expected. That sounds like a recipe for success down in there in New Orleans. I'm happy to hear moving my Saints up in the playoffs tier. I'm all for it.
Let's move into the Pittsburgh Steelers. No offensive touchdowns. And Russ has probably going to be out week 2. Not to say Fields isn't the better option. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't really trust this offense to necessarily get back on track. So I'm okay with leaving them in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, 100%. Everything you just said, I agree with wholeheartedly. And I think the Steelers are going to be a tough team to gauge here for a while, but they could move up to the playoffs eventually, 100%. They also can move down. The Steelers are definitely in a very fluid spot right here, but I think for right now, again, we'd be foolish to move them. We're going to keep them right where they're at, but we're definitely going to keep our eye on them down there in Pittsburgh.
Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, for the Seahawks, it's interesting because it's pretty much just what we said about it's literally actually I would say in my opinion, Hunter, the exact same thing we just said about Steelers. Very, very likely to move up or down at some point here soon, but I just don't want to overreact off of week one.
No, I don't either. I mean, they won by 6 to the Broncos. So, I mean, not, it wasn't, I feel like it felt like Seattle was going to win that game. Like, it wasn't like, it was so close, but it's still, a one score game to a team with a really bad roster. Moving in to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think they got to be a playoff team right now. I mean, with the way they played, with the way Baker played, they're rolling, and they ran back a lot of the same guys they had the year before when they made the playoffs and won a playoff game.
No, absolutely, Hunter. They are rolling. Hashtag is the NFC South back? I don't know. Is
I
it?
don't
But
know,
I'm
maybe.
with you. I think with the way Baker played, there's no way we can't say. And yes, okay, let's clarify also. It was against the Commanders. But you know what? Much like the Saints that beat up on the Panthers, when you beat up on a team that you were expected to beat, beating them up still means something. It
Yeah,
does. And that means something for the Bucks. We
the
have to move them up based off that performance.
Tennessee Titans. I feel like we got to keep them here.
Yeah, I was just say I don't want to overreact, but I think much like the Steelers and the Seahawks, we are going to see them move sometime very soon. We don't know where, Hunter, but we know we're going to see them move sometime soon, but we're
I,
not going to move them yet.
it's going to really depend on the development of Levis. I mean, that interior defensive line is good, and their defense isn't bad, but Levis made some really, really mistakes on Sunday, and it's just like I don't know if that's necessarily something he can improve on, or if that's just part of his game.
No, absolutely. 100%. And that's where if you're a Titans fan, you still have optimism, but you're certainly a little concerned after that week one performance. There's no doubt about that.
Moving into the any given Sunday tier, we have the Arizona Cardinals. I feel like with the way they play the Bills, I'm willing to move them up to middle of the pack.
Oh, I'm definitely willing to move him up to middle of the pack, especially considering, Hunter, that Marvin Harrison wasn't involved. And
Yeah.
once they start to figure out how to get Marvin Harrison involved, which they certainly will, I love the overreactions. I love seeing the clickbait. It actually cracks me up. It's just to the point that it's unbearable. It really is unbearable after week one a lot of times. Yeah, they're not going to figure it out. Marv was overrated prospect. Everybody just shut up. The Cardinals are going to figure it out. Marvin Harrison is going to be a dominant receiver for this team I'll say by week 8. The Cardinals are going to figure it out. Hunter, I think there's no doubt. We're moving the Cardinals up.
I would agree, yeah. Moving into the Denver Broncos, I think we have to keep them in any given Sunday because, they did lose. I do see them being in a lot of games this year, but I don't know if they're ever going to really be able to put it over the top a lot on teams.
Yeah, no. I think, look, we already expected a tough year from the Broncos. And it's exactly what we're going to get, barring an absolutely astronomical development arc from Bo Nix at some point in like mid-season. But it's going to be really hard to do, as we knew, right? This was the reality for the Broncos. And I think we're kind of witnessing the reality of what we expected unfolding.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way with the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, they'll be a tough out on Sundays, but like with that offense, the way it operates, and Antonio Pierce punting on the 43 down 3, the coaching and experience is showing already.
Oh, 1,000% is, and it's not what you want to see if you're a Raiders fan. 100% painful to watch as a non-Raiders fan. I know it was much more painful to watch as a Raiders fan. Yeah. So for the Raiders, nice transition there too. Shout out to you on that transition. I think for the Raiders, we're not going to move them down. We're also definitely not going to move them up.
I'm willing to move the Vikings up.
I am definitely willing to move the Vikings up, especially after my buy sell. I got to, give myself a little credit on my buy sell. I think there's how could I disagree? So again, and Kevin O'Connell, like we said, he's going to give his guys the keys to go have a chance to win every single week. That's all you can ask for as a team. So with that said, I think the Vikings middle of the pack, like the sound of that.
I think with the way their defense played and with the talent on offense, they should be able to, after what they showed week 1, albeit the Giants, they should be able to stay in a lot of games with other teams kind of in this tier, I think.
For sure. I would agree with that 1,000%.
Washington Commanders. I think any given Sunday is still a safe bet.
Yeah, I was just say, like, not want to overreact. However, if we see another 2 to 3 weeks of what we saw in week 1, I'm going to say this. I do think that they are going to be in basement eventually if that keeps up. But I have faith that that's not what's going to keep up. I have faith that they'll be able to pull one out here soon and kind of just have that be the recipe all year. So I'm still fully confident that having them in any given Sunday right now is the right play, but it's definitely subject to change here soon if they don't figure it out.
Moving into the basement tier, Carolina Panthers got to stay. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is just much like the Chiefs for the Super Bowl contender. The Panthers are the basement version of the Chiefs. There's not an explanation needed.
The New England Patriots are moving up to any given Sunday. I don't even think we need to discuss it. With what they showed against the Cincinnati Bengals, like they're going to be a tough out like the Broncos, I feel like. Now, is there any chance they move up to middle of the pack this year? I think we got to wait and see, but it's not something that is sounds crazy to me.
No, not at all. Not at all. And there's no disagreement for me here. They are absolutely moving up to any given Sunday. That was the definition of any given Sunday versus the Bengals week one. Yeah, shout out to the Patriots. Shout out to Gerard Mayo. You love to see it if you're a Patriots fan. The future looking bright down there in New England.
The last team here in the basement is the New York Giants, and I believe they're going to sleep in the basement for another week.
They might be sleeping in the basement all year, 200. They might be taking a year's rent in the basement, unfortunately.
They let
But
Sam Darnold beat up on them.
they let Sam Darnold beat up on them, and they did no beating up of their own in any way. Daniel Jones looked to have regressed somehow might I add. Um, Tough look for the Giants, and Giants fans are not going to be in any disagreement. So it's not like we're going to catch any flack for this. Giants fans are definitely on board with the statement. There's a lot of work to be done now down there in New York/New Jersey. I always like to throw that in too, just little jokes.
Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been week 2 NFL Power Rankings. We'll be back next week, week 3. If you don't know ball, want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like. Let us know where we missed in our Power Rankings. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great rest of your night.